Today we'll be learning about Flutter. My name is Akshay Bengani. I'm a Flutter developer. I have 3 years of Flutter developing experience, and today we'll be learning about introduction to Flutter, Dart, and will at the end of the 5 hour session we'll be building a small chat app or starting with the chat UI, some key concepts like block, provider, and we'll be using GraphQL, Hasura, and lot more stuff, right? So it's very exciting, right? So there is no prerequisite for now. Just for now, just uh, reply in comments that am I audible properly or not. If am I audible, then just reply I'm audible. So then we can start the stream, right? So by the way, there's a 20-second delay in the stream, so it might be like later on. So we'll start with Flutter. Okay, so this is Flutter session, right? So we'll starting with Flutter. So what is Flutter? Flutter is a cross-platform development toolkit developed by Google, which helps to deploy on multiple platforms with single code base with achieving great UI, right? As you can see, flutter.dev is the official website, right? And you can just visit over there. It's mentioned like it's a fast development process, expressive, flexible, native performance, and a lot more stuff. So you can even try Flutter directly on this web browser as well, right? So we're learning Flutter, and Flutter uses a programming language called Dart. So Dart is a specifically designed programming language which is designed for UI. So if you go on dart.dev, so this is Dart's own website, right? As you can see, like it's a website, it's a programming language specifically designed for making user interfaces, like, right? It works on different platforms. You can run this on web, mobile, Android, iOS, or any other platforms as well, right? So for now, like you can also try Dart in the browser as well, and there are some pre-built programs given here. We'll be like starting from the hello world, and we'll learn and understand Dart from here only, right? Okay, so yeah, as on the chat everyone is says audible. That's great. So let's see about Flutter again. So who uses Flutter? These big companies, and many big companies use Flutter. It is kind of like an abstracted way of a UI toolkit which contains literally everything. Like you don't need to hard code lot of stuff. It's everything is already pre-made. You just need to use those widgets, and in a widget tree you can design whatever you want. Flutter is also very fast. It's not that fast as native, but yeah, it gives you very minimalistic difference between Flutter and native Android or iOS, right? So you can go with Flutter if you are planning for building apps directly for Android and iOS both at the same time with a single code base. That's why Flutter works well. So we'll be clicking by get started, and we'll see first of all the installation instructions. So if you are Windows, Mac, Linux, Chrome OS, whichever user you are. So I assume like many of the users are Windows users. So yeah, just like these are your system requirements. I think Windows 7 is the minimum everyone have, and disk space is everyone have, right? So I think like people are very much worried about the performance issue. So if you are have ever worked with native Android or iOS, you must be using Android Studio or Xcode, right? So these are very heavy softwares, and they needs a lot of CPU and RAM usage. But the best part with Flutter is you can use VS Code, Visual Studio Code, and or Android Studio for developing Flutter apps. So VS Code is very lightweight, and you can just go with that. So download VS Code because I will also use the same thing for the entire session and on the next sessions as well. So you can download Windows VS Code as well from here, right? After downloading VS Code, you also download the Flutter SDK. So if you are a Windows, you download this zip file. If you are on Linux, you download that other file, right? So just download that and follow these instructions to install the Flutter app, right? And Flutter SDK, right? So then you need to update your path. So in Windows, you can go with on the start bar, type env. Then there's a program called environment variables for your account will open, and you can add this path, flutter bin path, in your path variable, right? I don't have Windows right now, so I cannot tell with Windows, but it's really easy. It's very easy. You can just browse this tutorial or any other. You can get guide from somewhere, right? So yeah, so after installing Flutter, you need to try out certain things like Flutter Doctor. So there's a command called Flutter Doctor. It will tell you about your Flutter version, right? Which tools are installed, which tools are not installed, right? Okay, so we are using a Flutter stable channel. It's 2.2.3 and we are on Mac OS 12.0. We have already set up Android toolchain, Xcode, Chrome, Android Studio. Everything is set up from here in my system. Well, you can set up, there are guides available here. If there's some issue, it will say some X sign and red sign, right? So as you can see, there's two warnings like this iPhone is not connected, this iPhone is not connected, right? But that's not an issue for us, so we are ready to go. If you want to get in detail for Flutter Doctor, you can just pass -v. If it will give you a much more detail about your Flutter, right? That what is your Dart version, because that's also important sometimes. So you need to have this. Okay, so everything is okay in our side. As you can see, like they said as well, like to run Flutter Doctor, right? And now the plugins installation. So if you are using Android Studio, then you need to add some plugins, and if you are using VS Code, then also you need some plugins, right? Let's open Android Studio. By the way, for the Android SDK, you need to install Android Studio even if you don't use it. But for Android SDK, for getting your Android SDK, you need to install Android Studio as well. It's a heavy software, like around it's 1 GB right now says, and then it downloads additional stuff which is around 5-10 GBs. So make sure you have a good bandwidth and a good speed, so you can download the Android SDK. If you have already installed Android Studio before, it's okay, you don't need to do anything else, right? It will install everything related to Android tools. For instance, you can check like if there is an adb command mentioned or not. You can just type adb. It's an Android debugging bridge, right? So by this your mobile app will be contacted by the either the Flutter SDK or the Android SDK, right? So adb is important right now. So once you just set up Android Studio, you can also watch a video tutorial or a text tutorial how to set up Android Studio. There are a lot more tutorials available for setting up these dependencies like Android Studio and VS Code. Okay, so we were on Android Studio, and we need to go and configure. Then we go in plugins, right? So in plugins, once the window is open, you can see you need certain plugins. You can just search for Dart, and there's plugin called Flutter. These two plugins we need so far for using Android, for using Flutter in Android Studio, right? If you need to use make Flutter apps using Android Studio, you have to install these two plugins, right? You can update it, it doesn't matter, we use old as well. right? So we are not using Android Studio for making the Flutter app. We will be using VS Code. So for VS Code as well, you need to what yeah, for VS Code there's also a plugin section, so it's called extensions in VS Code. So if you see this window, like this icon called extensions, I think it would be somewhere uh, over here maybe, right? Extensions, yeah, in preferences or extensions, you would just search in the help something, so you'll find the extension menu. So over here you need to install two things, Dart and Flutter. Same thing, right? You need to install this Dart extension and Flutter extension. So it will give you the support for Flutter and Dart. Once you install everything, it would work instantly, right? So you don't need to do anything else. Okay. So for now, if you have already set up Android Studio, and there's an Android emulator thing, but I would not recommend to use Android emulator if you don't have a fast or a great machine, right? If you have a powerful machine, you can go with the emulators. If you don't have, you just don't need it. You can use your own Android phone, right? We will not be learning Windows and Mac in this session, but we will be definitely cover in our upcoming September Flutter training program. We will be covering something about that on Windows and web stuff as well in that particular workshop and that particular training program, right? So once you just install everything, right, and you have already you set up the editor, it's mentioned in doc as well, right? It's a Flutter documentation. They document literally everything, like the same thing I said, they said in the same thing, right? So now you need to just test the app. Okay, so once your Flutter command is working here, you just clear it. So if your Flutter is working, Flutter command is working, Flutter doctor is working properly, then you can just use Flutter create. So Flutter create command will help you to create a Flutter project. So what a Flutter project is, it's like a pre-built boilerplate code which we can use to build and run Flutter apps directly without writing every file, every integration between Flutter and native. So you can use Flutter create command. It will just definitely create a new project directly, right? It's that fast. So we'll be like giving it a project name, right? So you can just type a project name. I will say it basics, right? So like learning for basics, so you like Flutter create basics, right? So it's creating all the files, necessary files and project files everywhere, right? Then you just go into that basics directory and open that directory in your VS Code application, right? So once you are in the VS Code, right, by the way, like till this process, like if you have any doubts, you can just tell in comment section. Although like the installation process is something I would say is you should learn by your own, or just watch some tutorials. You will find it, like it's nothing that much big issue, right? We are here to learn Flutter, right? So first of all, we will just delete these two directories. We just don't need this test and web directory right now, right? If you don't see this directory, that doesn't matter, like, yeah. Okay, so now like let me tell you what this whole project is all about. So we'll be like starting with the Android folder. So if you have ever developed an Android application or use Android Studio before, you know what is this, what are these folders and all. If you are not, I'll tell you. So what Flutter does is you write code in Dart language. You write code in this lib directory. In lib directory, there is a file called main.dart. You start writing code in this lib directory, making new files, folders and all, and this Flutter code will directly convert to the machine code and compile with the Android and iOS SDK, right? So this is an basic Android project, right? But it is linked with Flutter. So if you go in the Kotlin file, main activity.kotlin, it's a Flutter activity. It's everything is developed specifically for Flutter. So it's a basic applications. So in a native Android project, you can see like there are directories like app, right? There's a Gradle directory which contains your Gradle information, and there's a git ignore build.gradle settings.gradle build.gradle settings.gradle. These are some important files you need like to understand, like build.gradle and app level build.gradle. So these things right now it's not important. When we use some platform specific features or platform specific changes where we have to do like setting up Firebase in our project, we will use this bell.gradle and stuff, right now you can just ignore it, the Android directory. Similar with the iOS, your iOS project, if you have developed an iOS app before native iOS, then you must be knowing about this runner folder. So runner is right now folder contains your iOS project files. It contains that info.plist, app.delegate.swift, and lot more other stuff, right? So we don't need to take care about these. We our all project is already set up over there. So okay, so for running the Flutter app, while you can use a command called flutter run. Okay, so like earlier we used flutter create, right now we use flutter run, right? Okay, so what is Gradle? Someone questioned what is Gradle. So it's a native Android thing, right? So it helps you to build the Android application, and it contains a lot of configuration files for the Android application as well. So I think right now Mr. Sampath, Mr. Sai Sampath, I think that's enough. For you can just like Google as well, like what is Gradle, because it's not that important part for us right now. Okay, so let me introduce you to other folders. This idea and dart tool is just created by VS Code and Flutter to like just set up where is the path and everything, or else you just don't need to care about it. It is already created folders, and you most in the most of the cases you don't need to even modify it, right? Then there's a git ignore file, right? Git ignore file is a file where everything everything we don't need to publish to our GitHub directly. Whatever we need to ignore, we can just pass it right here, right? So in future when we use Firebase, we will be like entering the that Google Play Services file name over here, so we can just ignore that file from there, right? Then these are some package metadata files, basics IML. This is not something we have to concern. Now the important file is pubspec.yaml and pubspec.lock. So YAML is basically is a configuration file for setting up dependencies and project information, right? So it will give you some detailing, right? What is your project is all about, where you need to publish, what is your application version, in which environment you are working. It's the SDK environment, right? In which SDK environment you are working or not. And here you install your third-party libraries or Flutter packages, right? We'll be using a lot of third-party libraries, so we'll be like I'll tell you which libraries and which packages we'll be using over here. Okay, and like it's all commented, right? It's all commented. They say like what is that and what is that. So we don't need all that. We can just select everything and delete all the comments, right? It's not that important for us. Okay, so also this publish to command thing is not that important, right? We are not going to publish this project, so it's clean, right? And then this is a main.dart file, right? The first time the Flutter app will run, it will run this particular file called main.dart, and there's a demo sample application by default created by the Flutter team. It's a counter application. It's a very popular app. Everyone seen that application somewhere. But even though we'll be like running a Flutter project, and I'll show you what the app is all about, right? Okay. So if we have to Google, then why we have come here? Okay. So basically, it's some things are not that important to the session, right? And something is which you don't need to learn in very detail. Like it's a very basic thing. If you know about it, it's okay. Like it's not you are preparing for an interview. And also, like in detail, you will learning everything in the September training as well. This is Flutter workshop, and like covering a lot of stuff in 2 days. So yeah, we have to save some time, right? Okay. So to run the Flutter project, we use the Flutter run command. Okay, so using the Flutter run command, you can run the project. Before that, you have to use Flutter devices command to check if your device is connected or not. Okay, so Flutter. Okay, what ADB devices? It's ADB devices. Okay, so you can see there's a device attached. So if you don't know how to attach your uh, device, right? I'll just how to use that thing. I'll just show in my visor, right? I'm sharing my mobile app screen, so you can know how to turn your ADB debugging and USB debugging as well. Okay, I'm sharing screen of my phone, right? Many of the people don't get it how to turn on ADB debugging and all. So once just open your phone, go to your settings, your system settings, then you have to first open the developer options, right? So go in your about phone thing and just keep pressing on the build number. In my case, I've already opened the developer option, so it says no need, you are already a developer, but you need to press 7 times, and then this option will appear in your system or in a advanced settings, right? So you will see a developer options thing. You have to find this developer options thing. If your mobile model is different, then you have to like contact or look out for specific, but in most of the cases developer options is either available in the first menu or in the system menu or the utilities menu, right? So you go to this developer options, right? In developer options, you need to turn on this USB debugging, right? You just click on this USB debugging, and then you can connect your device, right? And for the first time when you connect your device, it will ask you to give permission to this particular device to like basically that this can communicate or pass debug instructions from your system to the device. Once it is done, you can just type the ADB devices command, and you can see your devices there, right? If it's not there, just we'll like find out some way, right? Just comment it below. We'll like look at then just try it something, and then when the device is there, then you can just type the Flutter run command. Okay, so in Flutter run command, okay, so when we run in Flutter run, it's saying that device particular name, and we are launching lib main.dart in debug mode, right? So when we are using Flutter run command, we are using the Flutter application in debug mode, and in debug mode we get several features like hot restart, hot reload, right? These features will help us to develop applications, right? So even that hot reload and hot restart thing is that amazing that native Android people still miss that. So in the Flutter website as well, they must mention like hot reload and hot restart thing. So yeah. So basically when you just press command S or something, it will just open the app, it will just run the app directly. Okay, so as you can see, our application is built, the APK is already developed, and there are some shortcut commands you can use it while the debugging. So R is for hot reload, capital R is for hot restart, then H is for some help, D is for detach, C is for clear, Q is for quit. Okay, and over here you can see your debug logs, whatever it is there, right? I'll just show you my screen again. I just yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so ignore this thing, right? Ignore this window, it's a YouTube window, so I can read your comments from here. So you will when you run your Flutter app, it will show you this thing, like, so you can see there's an app bar thing. Basically app bar is like some title bar, as you can see, right? There's a debug label over here, there's a counter here. It says like you have to push this button, you have pushed this button this many times, so you should just press this plus button, right? So you can see this counter and counting increases every time when we press this button, right? It's a default counter application which is pre-written by the Flutter team over here. Okay, so right now we just don't need this whole stuff. We can just remove and clean this file, and then we'll like first write the void main function, right? In Flutter as well, the main function is the key point where the app will start, and the main.dart is the file where we head Flutter SDK to say that the app will start from the main.dart file only. Okay, so main.dart is there. Before learning to Flutter, I'll like first tell you about the Dart programming language, because many of the people right now here have no experience with Dart before, right? So for Dart, I would say like if you have ever done any programming like C, C++, Java, doesn't matter, any programming language you have done before, so you can just learn Dart to me easily. It's very easily. So just go to dart.dev. So it will give you a Dart pad, right? Dart pad is basically here you can run your Dart code directly in the browser. You don't need to set up everything for that. Okay, so just press on run. Let's see what it is. So for printing something, you need to use print. So like if you are from JavaScript, you use console.log. Some in Java system.out.println. In Flutter you use print, right? And in print you just specify what you want to print. You can print a number, you can print a string, something like that, and that's it, right? So just click on run and it will run it, right? So you can print directly integer, string, directly in the print statement. Okay, so now like go to variables. This is a revision session, like it's not like I'm teaching you programming directly, programming from very start. I expect that you know little bit of programming of any language, right? So I'll just tell you how to create variables, what if, how if statements, loops works, right, in Dart as well, right? So just I'll just quickly cover it. It's very easy to understand. So in Dart you specify data type, right? So there are different data type like int, string, right? Int, string, double, bool, list, map. Like these are the popular one, right? These are the popular one, and there are a lot more data types and lot more stuff available. Even the complex data structures are available in the Dart, in the Dart collection library. So like creating some variables, like let's see, let's create some integer variables, right? So like integer a. Okay, by the way, if you are not able to visible the screen, okay. So let's we create a integer variable, we can create some double variables, right? So you just pass the data type and you are ready to go, right? Then there is string. So string you can create by two ways, either from the three ways basically. So in the single quotes you can write a string, in double quotes as well you can write a string, right? So in double quotes as well. And there's another thing called triple quotes, then that is triple single quotes. So basically triple single quotes is like a pre-command, it's a pre-config predefined like thing that your string is a multi-line string, right? So you just like type something over here and this is a multi-line string, right? So we just try to print everything so we can see how everything looks over here. So just copy this, right? Just change it CDE, right? So it's E, okay. So we'll like just press the run button so you can see it's running, right? So as I said, like this int double string, and this is a multi-line string. So however you type, it can also consider those extra spaces, right? So it maintains the spaces and all for that. Okay. So after this variable thing, we'll like covering some other stuff like var, dynamic, const. Okay, var, dynamic, const, these things, and final, right? These four things we will be like covering, right? And what's the difference between them? So you can also create a variable with using a var thing. So var, you just press A and type something. So var basically, when you use var, the Dart SDK will identify from it that which particular thing it is, like which particular data type you passed here. So it will assign that data type automatically. So you can use var to create any kind of data type directly without specifying exactly what it is, right? So but I would say like use explicitly defined data types, so and use minimum var or final var things, so it is more, the code is more readable, more understandable, that what it is and what it is not, right? So you can create variables with var as well, right? Then there is a thing called final. If you have experience with for programming before, you must be knowing about final, const, right? And what's the difference, but I'll say so in a var you can change the value of var anytime, right? You can just pass var value again by equal to operator, right? And you can just use it, you just can't change its data type, right? But you just can't change like it's a string again, right? This is not possible. If you do this, it will give you an error, right? A value of string can't be assigned to a variable type int. So basically from a var you cannot just change the data type again, but if you are using dynamic, right? So in dynamic you can even change the value and you can change the data type as well. So in dynamic you can just have two data types of a single variable as well. But yeah, so by default if something in a list which is not defined, it's dynamic, right? So because lists are dynamics if it's not explicitly defined. And there's another thing called final. So even if you provide final, then you cannot reassign its value, right? Because it's already final. And then a final thing called const. So in const as well, there's an error that it cannot be reassigned. So what is the difference between final and const, right? So in final is a we are assigning it in runtime, that this particular value will not be able to change, and const is basically you are defining it on compile time only, right? In compile time that particular value is fixed and that is an object, like it's a very immutable object and it cannot be changed, right? And in final as well, but it is on runtime and constant on compile time, right? So that's the basic difference between final and const. So after variables, like you have other data structures called like list. So you can just create a list, like I would say it as a my list, right? So if you don't specify a data type to a list, right, it's a by default dynamic. So you can in a dynamic list, what you can do is you can use multiple data types. So like this is a string, right? This is a string, then this is some double, then this is some boolean or some other string or something like that. And when you print that list, or when you try to access that list, it will just run, right? It's not an error. So as you can see, this list contains multiple different type of data types, right? So there are multiple different data types you can store in a list if it's not defined, generically defined. Similar with the map. So you can create a my map. Basically list and map data structures are very important because they are very much common and very much useful while building mobile applications, right? So map, in list you start with the angular brackets, in map you start with these no, in list you start with this square brackets, and in this with these angular brackets. Yeah. Okay, so again we'll like in a map data structure we have key value pair thing, right? So you can just like assume like a key called username and that Akshay, right? And then another key called password. So yeah, that you can keep something like that. Okay, so this is a map data structure. It's very similar to your other programming languages data structure as well. So the list and map thing is very important. Everywhere you like using these data structures, like even for creating widgets, user interface, and lot more other stuff, right? And there's another thing called generic data type. So okay, generic data type, so you specify which type of data type it is, right? So if you specify that it is a string type of list, then you can only provide string type of values in it. So earlier where we tried numbers, doubles, right, and then some string as well, right? But this time it will give you error because we have defined the data type, that what kind of data it will contain. So it is called also generic types. So you provide a generic type to a data structure list or map, that what kind of data type it is, right? So if you specify string, then we can only use string over here, right? So you can add multiple string values. Like a string can be on any format, like single quote, double quote, triple quote, doesn't matter, it is a string at the end, right? So you similar to list, in map as well we use this data type. Like in map there's a key value thing, right? So in map okay, so which variable type we use mostly or best to use? Okay, so best to use, there are different scenarios based on best to use. So sometimes map is useful, sometimes some advanced data structure like linked list, queue, some other stuff is useful, but in most of the scenarios list and map will do all your job. Like you can just make any kind of application with list and map. Well, when you pursue for higher and advanced stuff, you will learn about linked list, queue, and other stuff, which is also useful in different cases. So similar to list, we have generic data type for map as well. So as you know that map has a key value structure. So you can keep any kind of like string int, right? Or like string. Most of the times people use like string or string dynamic, right? So string dynamic, basically the first key is your string, and dynamic contains like anything you can create. So it's my map, right? You just make sure that the first value is string, right? So first value is string, so you can just like, and the second value could be anything. It can be string, it can be boolean, it doesn't matter. Like if it's we are defining it as like a dynamic, then it doesn't matter. And if you have a specific thing called, like if you want the second element also string or something else, you can specify that, or either you can keep it dynamic if you have multiple different data types can be attached to that particular key, right? So in most of the cases the key is a string, because many of the times the data we use either in the APIs or like in the backend as well, the first key we always keep it as a string, because it makes our work easy to handle, and it's string are very easy to parse and stuff, right, instead of that other stuff. So these are the list and map data structure as well, right? Enough of list and map, then we quickly cover about the if else statement. So if else statement also is a conditional statements. Loops are also very similar. So first we like create like a basic age app, right? Your age is what, 17. If your age is less than 18, right, then you can you are eligible for vote, right? So you just type print eligible. So it's a basic if else thing, like uh, I'm just showing you how the syntax works in um, Dart. Like you must be but everything else is very similar to other programming languages, right? So if age is more than 18 uh, and the age is less than 25, right, you are some kind of teen or college kid, whatever. The else if you can use it like this, it's like a teen, you can just type, right? And there's an else case as well. So in Dart you use these brackets, like these paragraph brackets, right? So you can differentiate between how everything works, right? So adult, less than 18, less than 18 is I think a kid, right? Okay, less than 18 is a kid. Okay, so it's more than 18 or less than 25, you are a teen, else you are adult. So the basic thing how it works is like you pass the conditional statement in a circular bracket, then you provide these angular brackets, and you just use the print statement here. If there's only one statement, you can just ignore the if bracket. If you have multiple statements, you can keep that. So in case if we have one statement, we can ignore it, but I would say keep the brackets, because it makes code cleaner, and you will like the other person can also know what it is, right? So it's 17, that's why it came kid. If we keep it 170, by the way, no one's age is 170, but yeah, it works like that. So I would suggest to use these brackets. It makes your code looks more cleaner, and for other developers as well, because you are not just learning Flutter for making apps by totally your own, but in an industry when you go or work with multiple people, you will have to maintain a code base such a way that it is cleaner and it's understandable. Okay, so it's already 4:45. I'll just wrap up other stuff as well. So the loops in Flutter. So the loops like for, while, do while, for, in, everything works in Flutter, right? We'll like just take an example on for loop, which everyone uses or everyone have an idea about it. So let's create a variable. You can use it like that. I is less than 5, I plus plus. These operators also work, these plus plus minus minus operators. So you can use like print I, right? This is how for loop works. Then there's a while loop works. So in while as well, you need to define earlier, right, that j is less than 0, less than 5, then do particular stuff like print j, and this j plus plus, right? Don't forget to add a stop, because then it will not stop it, right? So similar to that, a for loop and while loop works. Then there's a switch thing. Switch is like another if else thing, but in many cases, while you need to use switch other than yeah, so other than if else, you sometimes you need to use switch as well. Okay, so in switch you also pass this thing like what is the variable which we are going to check, right? Then I think switch syntax is very similar. By the way, you can just refer to this document, tutorials point, Dart programming document. It will cover you in very much detail about the operators, loops, right? Operators, the multiple type of operators, very similar thing, right? I'm just showing you the very basic stuff, right? Then after switch as well, there's operators, like if you know, like the and operator, so it is called and. Then there's an or operator, it works like or here. Then there's this not thing, right? Many times we use these things. Then there's increment operators like plus plus, similar to use minus minus. Then there are shortcut stuff like plus equal to. Plus equal to is basically a equals to a plus, right? That is uh, plus equal to, and that similar to a plus equal to 5, right? The both are similar things, right? So the a plus 5 and a plus equal to 5, right? These are the same thing. So just writing a shortcut way of doing such stuff, right? It's all defined very detailed. It's mentioned very detail about. You can just like every programming language have some basic documentation. Even Dart as well, there must be some docs available, right? So as a language doc, we can just look at it in brief from the dev documentation as well. So yeah, so, like it's a lot of big stuff, right? It's not that much, that small thing that everything we can cover, because like whatever we are learning is just 1% 2% of a whole Flutter thing in just in next 5 hours, right? For the whole big thing, build picture, the Flutter training program will be launching in September. That training program will contain everything in detail, and like still the basic stuff you can just learn with the dart.dev website as well. Like that's very basic and very like small thing, right? So like these and or not increment operators as well. Okay. Okay, now some people are saying it's too fast. Okay. Too fast. Yeah, why people are writing their names on the chat? I don't get it. Like, yeah, it's okay. Okay. So it's a too fast. Okay. So like Dart programming is getting fast, or the whole session is getting fast. Just let me know in the comments. Like it's already after some delay, right? So after the variables, then there's an important thing called future, right? Then there's the classes and future stuff, right? We learn class, future and everything while doing everything while making a Flutter application. So we just don't get stuck over here, right? We will actually build a Flutter application and learn the other data types which we commonly use, right? Okay. So let's get started to Flutter directly without investing much more time over there. Okay. So main, void main function. So you start with the main function. You don't need to pass any params over here, right? And to create a to run a Flutter application, you need to understand about widgets, right? So what is the widget? Widget is a very important thing, and everything is a widget in Flutter, right? Everything. So yeah, so widgets. Yeah, widget catalog is there. Introduction to widget. Okay. So as you can see, widgets are built using a modern central idea is to build your user interface out of widgets, which is describe okay, whatever it is. So what we say, the all the UI elements or everything what we see on the screen is all widget, right? We use multiple widgets on that. We use nested and a lot of tree type of structure, right? So as you can see, there are some widget examples given. So like there's a center widget. There's a widget called center, right? It's a stateless widget, and what it does, it just makes everything in centers, right? So when you run this particular program, it's a, you can see that the underlying stuff inside that particular widget is in center of the screen, right? So as you can see, like this text widget, text is another a widget, text is another widget. One important thing about widget is you keep widget is also a class, right? So we use class, we use capital letter to start with the class name, right? So as you can see, like the C is capital here, T is capital here. Well, it is not compulsory, but we should follow the certain way that the class name should be capitalized. The first letter of the class name should be capitalized. It should be in camel case format. Okay. So as you can see, there is a center widget, then there's a text widget, right? There's a different stuff, right? So in center, after using center widget, you apply this text widget, and in text you pass anything and it would work, right? So we just change it and it will be on. Okay. So first of all, we'll like create a basic structure and then we'll start with in detail about everything, right? So I'll first use this run app method. As you, if you just hover it up, it gives you a documentation in VS Code. When you just hover it up on some pre-built stuff or your own build stuff, it will give you some detail about it because it's even defined while writing this particular thing. So if you need to write your own doc as well, just use 3 slashes before and you can just write your own doc for a particular thing by your own, right? So right now in our case, we use this run app thing to pass the first widget. Like we create a first widget in our Flutter application, and that we will pass, right? So first we will create a widget. Okay, so there are two types of widgets. There's a stateless widget, then a stateful widget. Okay, so basic difference between stateless widget and stateful widget is a stateless widget cannot be redrawn based on a state change. They can be only redrawn when they are rebuilt or recalled in the UI widget tree. And in stateful widgets, they have a state property. So you can just use the state property, change the state in that particular widget lifecycle. We will like learn this. Let's start with the stateless widget. So if you want to start the stateless widget, you just type st. Okay. It will give you the shortcut to quickly create a stateless widget or stateful widget. Okay, so let's create a stateless widget and we'll learn about what it is and what is not, and we'll like just give it a name, right? Let's give it a basics thing, right? Just ignore this constructor thing. Now let's understand about what it is. So basics is a class name, right? It could be anything. You can just type your own name, it doesn't matter, right? For now we'll like keep the app name as the first widget. It's not a tradition or a way. You can, most of the people keep it my app, right? My app also sounds some good. Yeah, app, whatever it is, just make sure it's not a keyword or a predefined class somewhere. Then it extends a stateless widget class. Okay, so stateless widget is already predefined in the framework. Okay, sir, what are the extensions are required for Flutter app to install? Okay, so there are two extensions you need. One is the Dart extension, right? The Dart extension you can get in the extension thing, and there's another thing called Flutter extension, right? And for some better stuff, you can install material icons as well. It will give you a good icon theme pack. Like as you can see, these are some good icons, right? I have. You can install this material icon theme as well. It is just for a development purpose. It doesn't affect your overall application or something like that. Then there are some other stuff, like you can use a bracket pair colorizer. So it's one of my favorite extension. So basically what it does is, every time you create a new bracket, it will give it a new color. So as you can see, this the first bracket is yellow color, then this is a purple color, then it's a blue color. So there are 4 or 5 colors, and it will repeat it again and again. But it makes the code like development process cleaner. So you know where is your bracket is starting, where is the bracket is ending, right? So you can install this bracket pair colorizer extension. It is a good one, right? And there's another thing called beta comments, but yeah, most of the time we don't type that much in detail comments. But as you can see in the image, it says that if you use star or this after a comment like a exclamatory mark or a question mark or a to do, it will change the color. So if you want to specify that it is a warning or something, you just use this exclamatory mark, this is an alert or something like that, right? So it's a better commenting. It's not that important thing. Most of the cases we don't use it, but yeah, for the bracket pair colorizer, I would say yeah, you should install that. It will make your life a whole lot easier. Okay. Earlier download you shown it was fast. Okay, dart stream, single subscription, broadcast stream. Yeah, streams we will cover. So streams we will cover when we will learn about the block pattern, the block architecture. There will be like using streams. Okay, and how we should start a stream, how we should not, and we will also learn about some stream subscriptions. So for stream subscriptions as well, like it's a core thing, right? Our future builder, future stream builders, these 4 things were core things you will learn. Like there's a lot of stuff in Flutter which is a very core, and lot of stuff which you should know as a basic. That's why like a whole training program is needed, like a 6 weeks 10 weeks training program is required to cover everything, right? Do you have a paid course? Yes, we have a paid session. Like the training program will be like launching in September. That won't be as a paid, and that would not be this fast, right? It looks like a fast, but that will be very detail. Every detail we will cover it all, and yeah, that thing is it. But this session is also important because this will build your foundations and build your basics about what is Flutter. So the next time you will see someone, you can definitely answer how Flutter, have you made some project or not, right? So after this 5-hour session, you will know a lot about the Flutter, and you can just start building your own stuff directly, right? How to join Flutter paid course? So in the chat links you can see there's a telegram link going on. So that t.me/reject software, that telegram link, you can just join the telegram link, and my team will let you guys know when the Flutter training program is actually going to launch. Okay, so the downloads thing, I know it's what's fast, but right now I don't have any additional machine. In the next session or the actual training program, I'll create a proper virtual machine, and I'll show you exact each and every step, so you don't miss out anything, right? That okay. I can also do that in this particular session, but as we have promised a lot for this session, we have to just skip some basic stuff, right? Okay, so let's get back to the widget thing, right? So the stateless widget and there's a stateful widget. I'll just create a stateful widget as well, and we'll show you the differences, right? So my stateful app, right? You can just write any name to it. Okay. So what is the difference here in the stateless widget and a stateful widget, right? In stateless, first of all, we extend this stateless widget class in that particular, and implement that extend the stateful widget in the stateful widget, right? And then there is a method called create state. So when you create a stateful widget, okay, just skip this thing, right? We like create from very starting. Okay, so when you extend stateful widget, you need to override one method, right? When you need to override this method called create state, right? This create state method we override from the stateful widget class. Okay, this method takes another class or another object which you will create, right? And we also return it. So this arrow function is basically similar to this um, writing like this in return. Okay, it is similar to that arrow function. Like if you are confused with the arrow function, don't worry, it is very similar to this, right? And now you need to create okay, then you need to create a build method for this another class which extends state, right? Okay, so let me clear it up. Okay, return. Okay, so it's understandable right now, right, that there is an overridden method called create state. We override this method from the stateful widget and we return another class, which, and that particular class should extend state class, and we pass a generic type. You can take it like as a boilerplate code if you are not getting it right now. When you will like building more and more apps, you'll be like learning in for this in very much detail, right? So as you can see, like state is a class name, and you are you can take it as a data type as well. Like it's a class is also you can keep it as like a data type. So you pass a generic type and you pass your previous class name, right, which you extended from the stateful. And when you do this, then uh, you basically create your stateful class. So your stateful class right now is this, right? This is just a boilerplate template right now here. And in this you need one method which is important and compulsory to override, that is build method, right? So build method is a very important thing, and everything what you write the code over here is all written in this build method only. Okay, so what is that build method is works like in a life cycle. There's a thing called widget life cycle, right? We'll learn about this widget life cycle right now. Okay, so first of all we just pass a widget. We'll give an example called container widget. Okay, so now the whole idea of stateful widget works like this. You extend stateful widget class, right? You override a method called create state. You create a new class which extends state and pass generic type to your previous class, and by using this you also need to override a build method. Okay, now we'll learn about the Flutter lifecycle. Earlier, before that, we'll like look at the stateless widget. In stateless widget, you don't need to override any create state method because there is no create state method. As we said, like in stateless widget, we don't have state thing, and in stateful widget, we have a state, so we can manage different states. So a state is basically you can re-render or change the data of a widget in runtime dynamically by changing just the state, either from using set state or anything like that. Okay, okay, so widget is another data type. Okay, just use Chrome for debugging. I'm reading the comments, right? Okay, that stream, single subscription, broadcast stream. Okay, JSON serialization. Yeah, JSON serialization also we'll learn when we will like just parse the data. That thing we will learn right here. Just use Chrome for debugging. Yeah, I think Chrome works well, but I think Chrome is right now shifting to Flutter web, and we are not looking right now because not everyone wants to learn Flutter web directly. Like everyone wants to start making an Android app, right? What is bill context? Why pass when pass? Okay. Can we ask questions in Hindi language? Yes, you can ask in Hindi language. I also speak in Hindi. How to join the Flutter class? Again, there's a Telegram link or LinkedIn link going on here. You can just follow this thing, right? Then there's a thing called bill context. Now let's get back to it. Okay. So this bill method takes a thing called bill context. So context basically it provides you the current so context is a very common word, right? Like as you can see, basically bill context is giving you a context. Yeah, that's it. Okay, bill context in a easy way, right? Build context in Flutter. Let's keep it in easy way. Open the API flutter.dev. Okay. So as you can see, there's a thing called a handle to the location of a widget in the widget tree, right? So build context is another class, right? This is an handle we can use to find the position of that particular widget. So this is a widget, right? And it's we can use or figure out the widget directly using the build context variable right from here. Okay. So you can learn about the build context in detail in this particular thing, but by the way, it's not that thing to know, right? Okay. So like we'll just skip it, right? So like just create our first widget. Okay. So first of all, we will run this application. We'll just clear this up. We'll like use a stateless widget right now. There's a method called run app, right? From run app, you can pass your first widget, right? And it will be ready to go. Okay. So we'll be like running this application again. Okay. We have the visor ready. Okay. Once the application will be live, it will show, right? Also in VS Code, you can run your application by going to run and select run without debugging or start debugging, or press F5 or option control F5 to start debugging. In Flutter, we have this special thing, like you remember that hot restart, hot reload, quit, analyze, and lot more stuff. So that thing, the this Flutter extension in the VS Code helps us in find out, right? Okay, so you can just pause at any time, right? You can hot restart, you can terminate the application. Then there's a thing called performance metrics, right? And there's a Flutter dev tools. So dev tools, you can also start dev tools, right? It's just a heavy loading stuff, and we like most of the time it's not that. Okay, it's right now saying disconnected, but it is connected, by the way. Okay, so as you can see, our application just got run, right? Okay, I'll just show you how it looks right now. It looks like a black screen, an empty screen, because we have not passed anything. It's just a container is also a widget, like it's a very popular stuff, but we'll like start with the material app widget. So there are two type of themes you can have it, like one is the material app and another is a Cupertino app, right? Material app is very similar to the Google UI toolkit, like how Google uses the design in their application, like in Gmail, Google Photos, Contacts, a lot of apps we use of Google, right? So material app is again developed it's basically a way of like that it defines some predefined stuff, right? How your app should look, some basic stuff like app bars and stuff, right? So for using material app, you can use material.dart import. Earlier we could use some other thing like Cupertino as well, but we are using material right now. So just by importing material.dart, it will also import the Flutter stuff, the widget stuff, everything. You can just go with it, right? So as you can see, this package, it is imported from package basics min.dart, right? But in the material as well, there's some exports are available and some imports are available. So if you just import material app, it will just import a lot of other stuff as well, right? Most of the stuff you don't need to import again and again, right? Okay, so in material app, when we just use it, so it says an error like null check operator used on a null value. Okay, so in material app you need to pass home, right? I think it's a null safety thing, right? Null safety. I think we could skip null safety. Okay, let's take it with null safety. It doesn't matter that much. Okay, so in material app, in VS Code and Android Studio, you have this shortcut called control space. So when you press control space, it will just open up a menu in VS Code and it will tell you what parameters you can use in this particular widget, right? So what is a widget tree? First of all, like let's take about Flutter widget tree. So you get an idea about how Flutter widgets works, right? Okay. Let's open this picture. Where's that picture? Open image. Okay. So as you said, like my app, we have a my app widget, like it's our first widget in this particular tree, and then we use a material app, right? Material app widget we have, right? Now we can create, we can choose which particular widget we can, like with any files as well. But right now I will like create basic stuff, right? Like using a home parameter. As you can see, the home takes widget, right? Whenever you need to know what kind of data type it needs, you just type just go to that like home, and at the right you can see what type of what it needs, right? Okay, home. Okay, so home, we will first use a scaffold widget. Another scaffold widget is basically it manages your screen, right? A page. If you are saying it as like a page where everything is there, like a buttons, app bars, body, some other stuff. So scaffold is another thing. We'll like just show a body container, empty container. Okay. What? Okay, we'll like just hot restart it. Yeah, so once we just hot restart it, we can see like there's a material app widget, then there's a scaffold widget, then there's a container widget. If you need to know about the widget tree, just press this dart debug thing and you can see the widget tree. So the first widget is the my app widget, right? Then there's a material app widget, then there's a scaffold widget, and this gives you a proper idea about what is the width, height, and everything that particular widget is taking, what are its properties and all. Like you can go in a very detail about that particular tree, right? Either in the layout inspector explorer as well, you can know about it. Okay, so right now we just close this widget inspector, we don't need it anymore. Okay. I think I need to drink some water. Okay. 5:15. The session took for 45 minutes, and I'm speaking from last 45 minutes. Okay. So, Cupertino. Similar to material app, you can use Cupertino app as well. It will give you an iOS kind of design. Like let me create an app bar first of all, so you can find out a difference, right? app bar as well. You need some title. Why, man? What the error is? But the error is no materialization location found. App bar widget requires materialized location to be provided in localized widget inspector. I think at first I will keep material app. I will not confuse with any other thing. Like, let's keep it material app only, so you will not get confused, right? So what is an app bar? So as I said, like, scaffold defines a page, right? What is on a page? Whenever you create a new screen, scaffold, you on the top you keep the scaffold widget. It's not necessary to have a scaffold widget as said, but scaffold, if you are creating a total new screen like a chat screen or something, you can use the scaffold widget. It will give you some features like this app bar, navigation bar, lot of stuff. Like, there's a thing called drawer, there's a side drawer, end drawer, then there's a floating action button, there's different stuff like navigation bar, right? Bottom navigation bar, tab bar, everything is there, right? You can use with the scaffold. So many of the stuff, and it's not that you can use scaffold only once. You can use the scaffold with it n number of time. It doesn't matter that much. Okay, I'll just open the stream in another phone so I can use also view the stream as well. Just give me a second. And it's not that you can use scaffold. So I just open the chat window. Um, Okay, someone's question is for backend, which is widely used, Node.js or Dart, and why? Okay, so Dart can be used for server applications as well, right? Dart, but not everyone uses Dart because not every plugin or not every package dependencies and many of the stuff is not available. And Dart writing server code on Dart is not even popular as well. Although you can make server code on Dart, make basic API requests with Dart as well, but I would say use something else like Node.js, Ruby on Rails, anything PHP would work, anything which will work, right? It doesn't that matter. Okay, so right, for tomorrow we're like using we will not use Node.js directly. We're using a platform called Hasura, right? I'll just give you a basic idea. So instead of writing the whole server code, we will use Hasura. So we can just manage our database directly with database without starting and serving a whole server thing, deploying something like that. So like using Hasura, it's basically a service which maintains data in Postgres database, and from the client we use GraphQL language to get and send data. So we send in the GraphQL query, and in Hasura then execute in the SQL format. So it also abstracts a lot of stuff from there, here and there. So for starters, Hasura or Firebase is something everyone uses. Like these different databases you can use. By default, it's Postgres SQL. Also, you can set up for these things also, like other databases as well, right? Okay. Hasura will like learn later. Right now we are on the widget tree and on the scaffold, right? So as you can see, we used like just save it. Okay, so there's no app bar right now. It's an empty screen, and we have this debug label. We can just clear this debug label from here. Okay. So you can see that we have just removed that debug label from here. Now there are some important like stuff like app bar and body. Body is what we write in this particular screen section, like whatever it is body, right? So we just type body and we will like give it a widget, center widget. Center widget is again a widget which we can use it to make everything in center, right? So as you can see, like there are different params available. How I know about these params? When you just press control space, you can just go and explore everything. Like there's a lot of stuff right now here. You can just use, test it out, everything like that. We will also learn in detail in the September session. By the way, there's a child param which is mostly available in these pre-built widgets. So in child you pass another widget, right? So we pass text and we type something called hello world, right? So when we use this, as you can see on the screen, there's a hello world written on the center of the screen. If you remove this center widget and you just pass directly the text thing, what will it will done? It will just appear on the very top. If you can see, right? Can I zoom the screen? No, I can't. Okay, so it mentions like on the first pixel it start, the text of hello world started from the very first pixel of the screen. And sometimes there's a notch available, right now in Visor it's not showing the notch, but there's a notch in my OnePlus phone as well. Okay, so for ignoring the notches and all, there's another widget called safe area, right? So safe area is a very smart widget. It will identify from there like what is the first thing. It will identify that from where you need to start, right? It will just start after the notch, right? The next first pixel would be the starting point for its child, right? Okay, so right now we just don't use safe area, we'll like use center. Okay, so by defining center widget, you can just draw a text widget from here. Okay, I don't know why people are just writing their names in the chat screen. I'm not getting it. Okay, so please explain the structure of Flutter app. Okay, the structure of Flutter app. So first of all, it works in a widget tree. So when you just run or build a Flutter application, it will convert that Dart code and all the libraries and convert it to machine code directly, which is supported directly for the Android and iOS or web, something like that. For Android, it will convert in the Android way. iOS web, it will use a Dart.js thing, right? With the Dart.js, you can make Flutter apps on web, right? It will use Dart.js to build that. Yeah. So where we are, like, so there now we will like look for the more popular widgets, right? It's already 5:25. We need to cover a lot of stuff, right? Just no need to. Okay, so go to flutter.dev and then go to development, then go to introduction to widgets, and you just know like we covered this thing, right? Now some basic widgets are there, like these basic widgets like text, row, column, stack, container. Basically you can build anything from using these 5-10 widgets only, right? From container you can literally build anything, like any kind of UI just with containers or a set of containers, right? Container is very important, like in if you are coming from a web thing, you know about containers as a div, right? So we have this container widget. Okay, so we'll like first quickly look everywhere. Okay, so there's a container widget. So by default, an empty container have nothing to show you on the screen, right? But if you just pass it some width and height, you can pass width and height, right? it would exist. It already exists, but it is not showing you right now. Okay, you also pass a color, so you pass a color. Okay, so I pass 100 by 100. 100 is what? It's not pixel, it's a point. So it depends upon um, the width will take it will take a double value, right? And that is not exactly a pixel position or a pixel count. It works like a point thing, right? In Android we use this DP, in iOS we use this point. In Dart by default it points. So how many points my screen is, I can see it just by using printing from media query. So just before this return function I can use the print, right? So in print we will use media query. So media query is also another thing which is which is imported from the stateless widget or a stateful thing, right? So for media query to work, you need to have a stateful widget first of all, right? You cannot do in the stateless widget. We will convert it to stateful widget, right? So as the shortcut to convert a stateless widget into a stateful widget is Control Shift F. Option Shift. What the fuck is this? Control Shift R. Yeah, Control Shift R. Okay, it doesn't matter. You can create another totally new widget and then use it. If the Control Shift R is not working for you, you can just try with Control Shift R on the stateless widget. On any kind of widget, it will just open a new menu, right? On a container, if you just Control Shift R, it will show you some recommendation that if you want to wrap it with another widget or some of the common popular widgets, then you can use this shortcut, right? Also, so I'll just convert it to a stateful widget. So now before the run app, before the return, we can print our screen size. So our screen size is defined in media query dot of context dot size dot width, right? There's a height. Okay, so there's a debug thing going on over here, right? You can just clean it up and hot restart it. So right now gives an error. Okay, so we can use media query later on. Okay, not before the material app widget. So let's keep it again the stateful thing. Yes. Well, let's just create another widget. Just hot restart it. Okay. There's no Flutter course link on website. There's no Flutter course linked on website. Can someone just from my team share the link again, right? Just so tired. Okay. What am I doing? Okay. So we were learning about the container, right? So it's a Flutter container. So there are several other properties like alignment, margin, padding, transform. You can just pass if it's a transform, you can pass metrics. Then you transform alignment. Then it's a margin, padding. This is a child. So child is again you are getting inside the container. So whatever you use child in the child, it will be inside this yellow container. So we will make another container inside it, right? And this time also we use the alignment property, and we will keep it center. So whatever the child we will pass in this particular container, it will be in center, right? And if you don't just pass a child as well, it will also be in center, right? Okay, so let's give it also a width of, like, let's keep it 50, right? And then the height also of 50, and we will keep the color this time something called blue. So these are some by default predefined color palettes. So it says like 50 50 is it covered the entirely of it. Okay, so another thing is it's not works like that. Okay, so if you can see, this text widget is inside this particular container. You can pass the alignment, and you can see like it's in the center, right? So enough, like, you can experiment with containers a lot. Like, there's a margin padding thing, right? If you just don't use it aligned and you just need some padding, so in padding you can use an edge insets class, and from that you can use the different properties, like you can use all, only, left to right, whatever semantics, right? Use all. So we'll like pass a 10 padding to it. So you can see there's a space from every direction, from top, left, right, and bottom. If you just want to be on a specific direction, then you can just specify with the only property. With only, you just specify that from top only you need that padding, not from anywhere else, right? Okay. So enough of container, let's shift to columns, right? Okay. So there are another core widgets called row, column, stack, and row, column, stack, right? It's very important. So right now in the UI, if you see, we can only use one widget, right? If something else we need to add next to it, right? Either on the right or on either on the bottom of it, we need to use something called row or column, right? So we'll like first create a column, right? Column is another Flutter inbuilt widget. It's a very core widget, right? And it takes a param called children, and it is a list of widgets. Like, as I said, like, now you get to know about the generic type. So what children is? Children is a list of widget, and widget is the generic type we specify to this particular thing, right? So now we will pass set of widgets, whatever widgets we want, and so we can use multiple containers. So like we will just like create another container, right? We will just give it some different color this time, right? And we can just draw multiple containers because it's a list, right? We can pass multiple stuff, and when you just save it, you can see there are three containers lying from top to bottom because they are in this order. The whole page right now is a column, right? Inside the scaffold, the first widget we pass in the body is the column, right? And over there we use three containers or three widgets, right? So similar to that, if you want to draw something over here, then something next to it, you use containers. But what if you want to have a scrolling thing, right? A column is fixed with this particular length, right? So let's assume have multiple if you have multiple stuff on that screen, then there's an UI break error comes on because the output of this pixel is exceeding by 263 pixels, right? Because we cannot have that much on a column. But if we want to use it, as a scroll, then you can just replace column with a list view, right? So in list view, you can just scroll, right? You can just scroll like any. You can pass any number of widget. It will work like a recycler view. If you have come from Java background, you must be knowing about recycler view. But if you are not also, it will just recycle the widgets which are not in the existence. So when you just scroll up down, it will recycle that red one, then the blue one, then green one. So it basically saving memory over there and using that memory to generate new stuff at the bottom, right? So it's recycling. It's not like you are just pass everything at it renders everything in the memory. So you're just recycling a lot of stuff. Okay, so similar to okay, so list view you can use two ways, right? So by default the list is what okay, so by default this list is already vertical scrolling, right? But if we need to scroll it horizontally or make a list which is horizontally scrollable, then you can use a parameter like scroll direction, right? In scroll direction of a list view you can pass axis, right? Then you can, by default it's axis dot vertical. If you want the horizontal scroll, you can use axis dot horizontal. So it will just make it like horizontal scrolling, right? You can like just try it up, like play with the row, column, list view. These are very core with it. Like then we have row, right? So if you are on a row also, this scroll issue, scroll is a big issue over there. Okay. Now come to row. Let's clear this mess up. Okay. So as you can see in row we have this particular first element. Okay, so what if we have to design something like there's something on top, then there are some shopping basket or some product items like horizontally scrolling and the whole page is vertically scrolling. So let's build with the basic thing with this, right? Okay, so yeah, so first we will like start with a column thing, right? Either column or like let's keep it column only, right? In column you can just pass children, right? And over there the first thing you need, okay, by the way, first of all we just add a app bar. Okay, so app bar is basically a top bar. So over here you see your back button, your title, whatever it is. So in app bar also we have multiple stuff like title, icons, actions. So what is the title? Title is basically the thing you see on the top, on the center, right? So this is an app bar, or this is a basic app, right? So the title shows over here, right? We just terminated the app maybe by default. Okay, the app got crashed by the way. Okay, so yes, you can use single child scroll view as well. Okay, not that issue. Okay, so title we just pass it over here. We can use other things like there is an actions thing. So what action is basically the thing you see on over right? In any application which you see on right, like just open Google Photos, right? In Google News, on the right you can see this icon, this profile icon of mine. It's an action, right? And this first thing is a leading thing and center is the title, right? So similar to that, we can also pass some actions. So actions is also a list of widgets. Okay, so in list of widgets we just use another different we use something called like you can just pass, right? As you can see it is over here, right? You need some margin or padding for it. You just wrap it with a container, right? Then you can give margin and padding to it. So we'll like give it some margin, right? Margin we give it by edge insets dot all. We give it a 10 pixel margin, 10 point margin, so you can see over there, but it's still not centered, right? We need it to be centered, but in most of the cases we use icons here, right, or some stuff. So there's another widget called icon button. So the best part about icon button, it is a button with an icon, right? Let's keep the on press right now here. It takes two compulsory parameters, like these two are at least compulsory. There's an icon and there's an on press thing. So on press is basically a function. So what will happen when you press on this particular button is all what you write in this particular way. And in icon you pass an icon type. So as you can see, the icon needs a widget. So icon is another widget, and that icon have another and that icon needs a icon data, right? So there are predefined icons available by Flutter. So it contains all the material app icons like the AC unit, access time, person, people. There's a whole big list. Like if you just scroll it up, it's a big list of predefined icons. If like it will just have everything, right? um, so if you, as you can see, like we use a table view icon. It's some weird, we will like keep it some like um, car car rental. Okay, what is a car rental icon? Yeah, so there's a car rental icon, there's a car in top of the key, right? We'll like keep it a search icon, right? Search icon. So as you can see, the icon button already by default it makes by own self like what spacing and all it needs to be done, right? And you are figuring upon like what it happens when we tap, right? So you can pass anything, like you can just print hello world here, right? You can type any program in this on press function. So when you just press this thing, it will just print hello world. As you can see, it's printing hello world here, right? So these are the actions in the app bar, right? Similar to actions, we can also pass multiple actions because it is a list, right? So you can see multiple actions, and you can just add as many as you want. Just make sure that it doesn't break the screen, right? If you want to do that as well, then you can use a row over here, right? So enough of the actions. I think actions we can cover it later. Okay, in the app bar, what else we have? In app bar we have this bottom thing, elevation thing, leading, primary, shape, title spacing, everything is there, right? You could just explore it, experiment it with it, because it's very less time we have, so we'll not cover everything. We'll like cover it in detail in the September session. By the way, you can also try it by your own. It's very easy, right? You can just look what it needs. It needs a widget, so you can pass any kind of widget. Just try and experiment with it at how it works. Does it breaks the UI or not, something like that. Okay, so what we were doing is we were planning to make something like let's open a paint we have in Mac. We have paint software. Okay, we don't have a paint software in Mac, right? But I have Adobe XD. Just doesn't mean that Adobe XD, you can just use any paint. Maybe there would be some paint online available. I don't paint online, so I can, yeah. So wow, we got a paint. Okay, so this is our screen, right? And we need something like that. So on top we have an app bar, right? And then we need some text over here, right? We'll just keep it like text some text here. How does it work? Some text, okay? Or like in a shopping app, like a category, right? Then we have this list of boxes, right, which defines our products, right? And this is scrollable, right? So the next box will come and it will scroll, right? Similar to this category thing, we will again have this, then again have this, then again have this. So it's a shopping stuff. You can make it like this. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, close the Adobe XD. So first of all, we use column, right, because we need something in vertical. Let me just terminate this. Show later. Close it. Okay, so why we need a column? Because we need widgets in an order, like we need first this, then this, then this, and this, right? So for this we use columns, and for this we use rows. For vertical we use column, for horizontal we use rows, right? Okay, right now we just have the app bar. Now let's first app bar, and then I would say create a container before, right? Because we would have to see some margin over here, right? We will use some margin. Okay, so for margin I would suggest wrap it with a container. So in container you can pass margin, then you just pass some value like 12 pixel margin from all sides, right? So by this you can so first of all we use like category, then so let's view how it looks like. The category, but it's not visible. Okay, the app is terminated. Okay, I need to run it again. I think we are just wasting using a lot of time right now. Okay. Oh wait, a lot of questions are here. I just didn't notice. Like probably next, there's no Flutter course link. Again, the passing hard-coded values for height and width, will it be responsive? No, it will not responsive by that. For responsive, you need to figure out the width, and based on that you will do that. You can use single child scroll view. Yes, we can see use single child scroll view as well, right? Items scroll horizontally or vertical scroll. Items can scroll horizontally and vertically both, depends upon how you do it, right? Someone does a Paytm clone. Okay, yeah, Paytm clone is also something like that. Okay, so first of all we just create a list view. We'll first fix it height, right? So use container, we will just fix it height, so we don't have to worry about anything else, right? Then we will use list view, and in list view you use children, and in children we will just use container with 100 by height 100. Scroll direction is axis dot horizontal, right? And for instance we use colors to identify that there are containers right here, and we will also use margin to separate that there are some containers which is visible over here. Okay, so as you can see we have this scroll thing. Like right now it's 3, so it's not scrolling, but if you add more it will start scrolling, right? So as you can see it starts scrolling. But by the way, you can see like the category shifted to the center. but we needed it, so we will set the column alignment. So there are two things in a column property. In column we have two properties that are called cross axis alignment and main axis alignment. So we'll use the main cross axis alignment this time. So in cross axis alignment, as you can see, take cross axis alignment type. It's an enum, right? Most of the time we use enums, right? So we'll keep it to start. So when you keep it to start, you can see the category is there, right? Okay, so it just like scroll like this. So yeah, now since you can also keep it somewhere else, like list of boxes, like make a variable, like let's keep it a variable, right? And list of widget boxes, we'll keep it boxes equal to and we will just pass boxes here directly. So we'll just clean it up. It works same. Okay, so I think yeah, by the same way you can create for other stuff as well, like the category you did for this, and again you can just do this, right? So you just play with the containers, row, list view, right? These are very important stuff, right? So container we use, column we use, row we use, list view used. Right now we need to use something called stack. So stack is an interesting stuff. So in stack what we do is basically if we want to put something on top of something, right? So take an example, like there's something, some container over here, and you need to put something on top. It's a layer by layer thing. So the first element on that particular thing would be stacked item. So for example, if you take an example of this floating action button, so there's a floating action button over here, right? You can just pass an on press to it, and a child, just pass any icon button. Icon, only icon would work, right? Icons dot okay. So as you can see, there's an icon button came over here, but it is on the top of the screen, right? It's on the top of the screen. How you will know it? Because if you render something on that, this thing will keep on top, right? So let's take an example of the stack, right? So we use stack. It's not the stack data structure, it's something different. Height 100. We keep a color of it. Let's keep a color of red over here. Okay, so as you can see, we got our first element over here, the container, which is all red. Now whatever we add up on the next of this, it will look on the on top of it, right? Okay, so for example, we keep it 50 and make it blue color, right? So this time it is on top of this red container, right? The first one is this red container, the second one is the blue container, right? So whatever is on the next, it will be on top, right? So you can do literally a lot of cool stuff with stack. So let's keep it 25 and keep it, let's green. Okay. Oh, great. So now there's a stack also has some alignment properties. So alignment, you have stack. Need also needs an alignment thing. Alignment dot center. So what it will do, it will just center the stack, right? So you can see there's a red container, then there's a top container, blue container, then there's a green container inside that. It's not inside that, it's on top of that. So if you have used Photoshop, it's like a layer, it's a layer on top of everything, right? So stack is also a very core important data structure. Okay, I think it's 5:56. We just have half an hour and we need to cover a lot of stuff, right? So I would say just play with these widgets like stack, container, buttons, icon buttons. So for buttons, I would say I will just give you some example, right? Um, in buttons you can use there's an elevated button, right? There's an elevated button, right? So when you want to create a button, you can use this button thing, and you can just pass some another widget, press me. So when you just build might write that, it will create a button, right? So by default, what is the button color? That button color is all defined in the theme. We are not understood about the theme yet, because theme is a more complex and more deep topic to cover, that we can cover in the Flutter training program. um, so whenever you press this button, what you have to do is what you can write in this on press function, right? So you can do something else, like when open a page, fetch some data, whatever it is. Like this is also a button, this is also a button, right? And this has some cool animation. That's when you press this, it just flash it up, right? So it's elevated button, also called as flat button, but flat button is deprecated, right? Flat button is replaced with elevated button. So they just rename the all this stuff. So play with elevated button. Just try to make some good or some dummy user interface. Make your own artwork, like own screens and all. Like right now, just one screen. I have not taught you how to do navigation and all. But I will tell you that as well, right? Okay, so that is for the elevated button, right? Now let's get back to the documentation. Okay, so to learn more about the widgets, refer this flutter.dev documentation. They can help you find a lot more deep insights about it. Although in the training session, the we will also provide some data documentation about it, what from where and what you have to learn, and how you can get started with it, right? There's another thing called image icon, right? There's a whole lot of stuff, layouts. Then there are some code labs available. So just like for instance, let's take an example of this thing, right? So what it is a column, first of all, right? In a column, the first thing is an image widget. Then there is a container, and there we pass margin, right? As you can see, there's a margin on top, bottom, right, and left and right everywhere. So there's a margin over there. Then we have this text. There's another text. So it's a row. In a row, we use this. It's look like a table, right? This is the first element, this is second element, this is the third element, right? So it's a row, right? If you just go in over here, you can see how it is made, right? So the same thing I said, like it's an image, then there's a container, we have margins over here, right? And take an example of this. So first of all, uh, it is a row, right? Then there's a row, there's another column, and in the column we have two text elements, right? In the two text elements, then we have another thing. So let's make this particular thing, right? As you can see, okay, the code is already written, right? You can just look at over here. Okay, so it's a title section, yeah. So as you can see, there's a container and there's a padding. As we said, like this is a padding, like this padding we have from top, left, right, bottom, everywhere. Then there's a row, basically this is a row. There's this thing called expanded. So expanded is what, if you want to say a widget to takes the extra space, like if there's let's take an example. We make a container, right? In container we have this padding. Well, then there's a child row, use children, and in children we have now two things. Like in children we would need first is text section and another is this image section. So we will first use a row, right? We use a row, and in row we use a column. So you can nest it like this. So in row you need a column. First of all, a column. In column we have this two text, right? This is title, this is subtitle, right? And there's another icon next to it. So you keep an icons dot net. Okay. So when you just you run this, like you can see there's a title, a subtitle. This is in a column and this whole thing is in a row, right? But as you can see, this needs to be at the end, right? So what we can do is we can say Flutter that make this particular column, make this particular widget expanded to the maximum space. So we have this widget called expanded. So when we use the expanded widget, we can see like it took all the space, right? It's in the center because by default the column alignment, cross axis alignment is says it's center. So as you can see, like we set it to start, so it is like it's on over here, and the icon is over here, similar to this approach, right? We have this row, then we have this column, then we have these two widgets inside that, and then we have this another item in that particular row. Now this is also an interesting one. Let's guess what it is. So if you just go to deep dive on this, okay, so what it is first of all is a row. Then there are three containers or three sections. Like let's keep a container so we can centralize. So it's a row, then there are three containers, and in every container there's a column, and in column the first one is the icon, the second one is the text. Similar to the another container, the first one is icon, the second one is text, right? And the third one is the same thing. So let's build this particular thing. As you know this, right? Now like make it over here, right? So what it is, the first one is a row, so we keep it row, right? In row we have three containers, so we keep three containers. Let's do it like that. Okay, it's not visible right now, but yeah, in a container there are two widgets, so we use a column. So in container we can use only one, so we have to use a column over here. So in column we will pass two widgets, right? The first one is icon. So what is icon does is this call icon. Then there is a text called call. So just copy this thing in another as well, and you will see something like interesting, right? Okay, so as you can see, this call is there, right? We just change it to message, right? Message, and there's an email we will keep it to email, right? So we have seen with three different things, but now we need to space it in such a way that it takes equally, right? So the column, the row we use on the top, in row we have this thing called main axis alignment, right? So in main axis alignment you can define how you want to space out the its children, right? So you need to space out main axis alignment dot space equally or evenly. There are different ways. So if you just keep it evenly, it will take equal spacing for both of them, right? The call, message, email, both of them, all of them take an equal space. If you keep space between, what it will do, it will keep the space in the center of it, but not around of it, right? Then there's a space around. It's very similar to space evenly, but sometimes the difference we can see. But space around and space evenly is sometimes similar to in the view. But I better say use space evenly or space between. All right. So in our case, it's space evenly, right? By the way, if you want to see the difference, like it's a space evenly, then there's a space around. When we will just save it up, right? Quickly you can see that there is some difference in the spacing, right? So that's why it depends upon how you want to view as your content, right? So this is how you can make the practice with the row column containers. If you have enough practice with the row column container and stack, now you can just build anything. Just go to Dribble and you can just build any kind of UI with just row column container and stack. Like it's that easy. Like any kind of user interface or any kind of thing you can just build with this, right? These are very common. That's why I took so much time on this because it's very important for everyone to understand. Okay, so it's already 6:08 and part one, I think we just missed a lot of stuff, but we'll try to finish it tomorrow. I know there's some stuff we would not be able to cover, but we will try to cover a lot of stuff, right? From tomorrow we'll be like using we will using Hasura for the backend. We will learn about Firebase, some other data structures, models. There's a lot more to cover, right? Okay, so let's get back to our designing part. So what we were doing is to design a WhatsApp like chat application. So just go to Dribble and let's see some chat app user interface. So we can just chat app. Okay, chat app for mobile. So it looks simple, right? I need to sign in. Mobile chat app. This looks simple, I think. Yeah, with this one, right? So there's a chat, there's a left to right chat, there's a top app bar, there's another screen going on here. This is a whole e-commerce thing, but we'll like using just a WhatsApp like view. So do we have WhatsApp example, WhatsApp chat? Okay, so let's open this up, right? Okay, so as you can see, there's the image. Let's open that image. So in a WhatsApp, what we have in WhatsApp, we have this app bar, we have these app bar actions, we have this leading, this title, there's a subtitle, then this is a list view, like because we scroll through the messages, right? That's why it's a list view. Then there's some text field, there's some icons, there's some buttons, these are containers which are formatted like shaped in circular way, right? And first of all, even that we need to have a screen where we can see other chat apps as well. So like WhatsApp, hmm, yeah. So this thing, so we'll create this list view, right? So let's first create this list view, right? So we'll just clear it up, or let's even create a, okay, let's keep the same project. We should not just go and clean it up. Okay, so we create another widget called chat or home screen. Let's keep it home screen, whatever you want, right? We will create a screen. We'll first create a screens folder. It doesn't matter which folder you create, or you directly create it. You can, but it's a good way to have all the screens separated from other stuff, right? So home screen dot dart, we created a file. So we need a stateless widget for the home screen, right? And we'll start with the scaffold, right? Okay, so for in the home, we just hover it up and go to quick fix, or press the shortcut. In our case it's a command dot. In Windows it could be different. So when you press command dot, it will suggest you what you have to do. So it says like you have to import home screen, right? So you just click on it and it will add as an import over here. Okay, so in home screen we have the scaffold, right? Okay, so when you now run the application, it's on again an empty screen. Now in this scaffold, we will first of all add an app bar. Okay, so we add an app bar, right? Now we have to change the app bar color. So what's the background color? So okay, let's see WhatsApp color palette, right? There must be some color palette available for WhatsApp. Someone have already did it. Okay, so we use this particular color. So if you want to use color, specific color, you use this color thing, then this 0xff, the color takes an integer value, right? So this 0xff is just the integer way of representing color. It's an hexadecimal way, right? It's already integer. So ff is the ff is basically, first of all, the opacity of that particular color. Then we paste the color hash, right? So this is your color code. This is the opacity of the color code. So you can see the opacity. By the way, keep it ff. You can also set opacity by setting from here. I would say set it through here, not by that way. Okay, so if we just look at it, the color is got changed, right? Now we have a title in the app bar. So title, we have text. What we keep it? We keep it a chat app, right? As you can see, there's a chat app over here, right? Then we will add some icons like the search icon. There's three dot icons, right? We'll add these icons, right? So these are called actions, right? So actions, we have this icon button. You can just right now keep it empty. We will work it on later, right? Icons dot search. Then there's another icon. We will keep it. There's an icons dot whatever what it is, like three dots क्या बोलते हैं, like hamburger or menu बोलते हैं, I think menu vertical या menu कुछ तो बोलते हैं उसको, three dots, something like that. Someone can comment like what's the uh, Okay, let's keep just one icon for now. Just it's not an required thing. Then we will create a list view. We will not use these tab bars right now because we don't have that much features available, right? We'll create a list view, right? We use list view over here. There's a children. So right now we use the dummy text. Tomorrow we will use some actual data from the backend. I hope it's possible. So for example, we create a dummy data file, right? For here we just keep our dummy data, right? So we will create a list of data. So in this list we will first of all make another group, like let's take it as an object. Instead of list we use like as a map works better. I think list would work as well, right? So we create in the list we create a map, and what information we have, we have is the username, the name, the last message, date, and this icon. So we keep values like name, right? Name, let's we are creating dummy data, right? Then this is profile, that's image. Image we also keep some download URL, right? Then there's last message, then this last message, then there's a date, time, whatever it is, message details would cover everything like that. Okay, so we just copy it up, right? So we have some dummy data at our hand, right? Now in list you can directly use list operations, right? So it's called a chart user data, I think. Yeah, user data would work, right? Then user data dot, so you can just map it up, right? Keep it it will just return let's see the list style dot to list. Okay, list style, on the title we use text, and there's a user, and in user we have this name thing, right? So we pass the name thing. I'll explain what it is and what is all going, right? So as you can see right now, we imported the data from dummy. So so we created a dummy data. It's a list, right? I think keep it a map works well better, right? Keep it map. Okay, let's keep it list. Let's not confuse people. Okay, so what we did is in children we pass a list, right? List like this, but we can also pass by mapping through it, right? So we just the same way we do create a widget list, the same way we create it for these as well, right? I just connect my laptop to the charging. It's 27. 621. Why it's not charging? Fuck. Yeah, it's it's not charging, right? Okay, so I think we should create a model before that. Creating a model would be better, right? Okay, forgot about this. We'll create a model, and like let's explain with a model, right? So model is basically we will create a user class. So it would be better to understand the MVC structure as well. So we'll create another folder called models, and we'll create a user class, right? So let's create a class name user, right? You can name anything whatever you want, right? In that particular class you specify some members, class members. So we have a member called name, right? Then we have this member name, member called profile image. Then there's another thing called last message. Right now we keep it string, but then we will tomorrow we'll like keep it a string message model, right? So we will create a constructor, right? You know what the constructor is better. This dot name, this dot file image, this dot last message, right? By this you create a user model, right? It's a model. Basically you are creating your own data, own class. It will keep help us identify better, right? Or we also keep it named. So what it is like named as, okay, you don't need to use named, right? Actually like it's 6:23, like create the data and all tomorrow. Right now it's not that important. Okay, so we can use user objects and pass it like a name. We pass like Akshay right here. Then there's a profile image we don't have right now. There's a last message right there, right? So it's now much better abstracted. We keep it something else like Shivang, whatever it is, right? And then we can use it directly here with this user data, dummy data, and we will just again map it up. And now we know the data type, it's a user type. We'll create keep it like this. Then we will like just print the name for now, right? It will make it easy, right? So user dot name dot to list. Yeah, user you need to import. What is the error? List type can't be assigned to. Okay, so you keep it widget. With the parameter type list of widgets. Okay, so better is, okay, let's not get confused today. We'll like do it tomorrow, right? We'll also prepare some data or some dummy code, so we can save more time from that. Right now by teaching like this it doesn't make sense, right? So for now the assignment for you guys for today is to just look over here, complete the layouts with the basics about user interfaces, add some images and assets. You can refer this doc, it's very clear and very properly mentioned, although we will do this when we get a longer hour sessions or some multiple days of session. So yeah, on that day we can have everything in detail, right? Okay, for now, for the questions, please give the code. Where's the attendance link? Okay, why? What's model? What makes use? Okay, well, you can learn all about it in Flutter.dev. Although we will learn tomorrow, we'll make it a lot more expressive. Okay. Uh, Where's the code? By the way, there's no code we saved right now. I would say do your own code, right? If you think you need some help, you can just watch the video again, right? You can see the code over there. There's nothing I have maintained right now. There's no branches I maintain, so there's no code available right now. So okay. So let's see tomorrow. We will try to build a lot of other stuff. Provider and block pattern is something I would like to teach, but depends on the time. But yeah, I'll just create some sample code before, so we don't need to write everything on the live stream. It would save our time and it would help you guys better understand. Okay. So let's for now let's close the stream and we will meet you guys tomorrow.